Want to welcome you today. Today we're going to talk about 7 big mistakes when it's time to sell your lake home. With any real estate that you own, it's an important investment. And today I'm going to share some avoidable mistakes that many people make. I'm not here to pitch or sign you up or get you to enroll. I'm just here to share things we've learned. We have real estate agents all over the country that are exclusive to us. In fact, they've recently sold more than $2 billion worth of lake real estate. So we've really got to watch how all this works. A housekeeping matter, in the next couple of days, we'll be sending everyone who registered an email with a link to this recording so you can watch it later. So you'll get that. It'll take a couple of days. We need to render and get that out. For those of you who are interested as well, I believe we'll have a little time at the end of this where you can type messages in the Q&A of your Zoom app, and we'll try to cover as many of those as we can. So one thing I want to be clear about is I'm going to be very candid today. So I want you to listen with a very open mind, because some of what I suggest to you may seem counterintuitive. It's just because there's the thing, everyone does one thing a certain way, doesn't always make it the best way. It may not be a bad way, but it may not be the best way. Behavioral psychologists know that we often fool ourselves, and one of the easiest ways to fool ourselves is emotional and sometimes false intellectual comfort of doing what everybody does. We see it, it feels good, it feels comfortable. At the same time, what I'm going to share today is not 100% accurate in every situation. Things do vary, so these are not absolutes. So what I would like to encourage you to do is something I suggest to my staff, and that is keep in mind the phrase, knowing prevents learning. And that is that we think we know a thing and we start justifying why it's right. And when there may be something to learn, and it may even be what you know and what I know may get a better answer than what I'm sharing with you or what you knew before. I hope you at least walk away with 1 or 2 takeaways that are valuable. So whether you're considering selling a lake home now or many years from now, or you're not even sure about selling it at all, that's not even in your mental viewpoint, your lake home is an important financial investment. And like those investments, when you do sell, it's the time you recoup the cash that you've invested. And you may or may not have made a profit. This myth that no one loses money in real estate, the real estate bubble bust proved that not to be true. But in the world of entrepreneurship and investing, we all exit from that investment. And so it's very wise to plan your exit to be prepared. And a good part of preparation for that exit is to learn from the mistakes of others so you don't repeat them. Now, if you're watching this and not a lake home owner, but maybe instead you're in the market to buy a lake home, I want to welcome you as well. It never hurts to understand the mistakes of sellers as you do shopping. But my message today, I'm going to be focused on those of you who own a lake home and maybe help you to avoid some of those mistakes. So I'm Glenn Phillips. I'm the CEO as well as our lead economic analyst for lakehomes.com and Lake Homes Realty. If you don't know us, Lake Homes Realty is the nation's largest lake-focused real estate brokerage. In fact, we're licensed in 30 states and growing. We're full members of 130 multiple listing services where we have full data feeds. Lakehomes.com is our website that many of you know us by now, and it's literally visited by millions of lake home buyers, real folks, not just people browsing through, but people are actively searching and thinking. As I said earlier, our licensed agents that are exclusively with us have sold more than $2 billion in lake real estate. So I think it's safe to say that we have a very unique perspective on real estate. And as such, we can study what the most successful buyers, the sellers, and real estate agents do in marketing and in transactions. And today I'm going to share with you some lessons I've seen, things I've understood from our agents across the country, as well as some very common misconceptions about selling real estate that can actually be very costly to a lake home seller in the long run. Some of this applies to all types of residential real estate as well, but not all of it. So let me move over here to our screen and let's jump right into this here. Bear with me just a second here. All right. So as we jump right in here to our slides here, mistake number 1, as we dig right in, is forgetting how it feels to be a lake home buyer. That is, when you sell to anyone or properly negotiated transaction, it's always helpful to remember what it felt like to be on the other side of the deal. And if you own a lake home, unless you inherited it, you purchased that. So very important when you're marketing your home to get the best reasonable price is to remember what it felt like to be on the other side, and to position your message that way, not the message that's in your head now as the seller. For instance, when you bought your lake home, did you really care what the current owner of that home paid for it or how much they'd invested in it in money? I bet it would be safe to say that you really were more concerned about what the market said the home was worth when you were buying. I mean, you may feel that all this money you put in is important in setting your price, but did you care about that when you bought? And if so, if you can relate to that, neither would be your buyer. So never expect the buyer to consider anything other than the current and upcoming market conditions, particularly in the turmoil that we're seeing in the economy right now. Also think about personal taste that the owner had when you bought the property or when you looked at properties considering to buy. Your personal projects are going to be very meaningful to you, and they have personal value that we convert into financial value. But the buyers may not always think that. In fact, I reflect back, there was a show called Moving Up on the Learning Channel from 2005 to 2009. And that show is very interesting because it took somebody who they talked about the home they were selling and what they loved about it, and then took them home shopping and they bought a home and changed it. And then took the people who sold that home and followed them through the same journey. And it was very interesting to watch these homeowners of the home they were selling explain what was wonderful they loved about the home. I love this living room and how we made it open. It's the best part of the house. Or this patio, we spent hours building it and we just love spending time out here. But then they would show the family buying the home, and some of them loved those features, but some would go, wow, patio's a little dated. We're going to have to get rid of this and we're going to put in a deck and a pool. Or they go, ooh, wow, this room needs some work. And so it was very interesting to see not only did that happen, but the very person who bragged about what they loved about a home would disparage the home they were buying that was probably loved by that person. So when you're selling, you want to keep that in mind. And also, unlike primary residential homes, when you were buying a lake home, you didn't have to buy. It's not a required purchase to purchase the extra it costs for a lake home, and that you could afford to wait for the right time, for the right home that fit you and fitted at the right price. Keep that in mind when you're selling, that your buyer will think the same thing. And the fourth item under this mistake number one is, as a buyer, if it was your first lake home, had to think about a lot more costs than the home. Were you going to get a boat? Were you going to make updates? Did you need a whole nother type of furniture you didn't have? It's not like moving from one primary residence to another. So people may need money for more than just the house. And that's an important consideration when you're thinking about how you sell that home. So mistake number two, misunderstanding the marketing effort. So if it's okay, I'm going to consider this a safe place. I'm going to tell you a couple of secrets, real secrets of real estate. Across the country, all types of real estate, agents often do many tasks that do not sell the property, but they do it because it makes the seller happy and it may help that agent get more listings in the neighborhood. So really, it makes everybody happy, but it doesn't sell the house. It's a game that's played. Let me give you an example, particularly in a lake environment. There are occasions where an open house may work, but generally in the lake, they don't. The buyers are from hundreds of miles away and they're not just riding around the neighborhood. We work in lake markets that have 500-600 miles of shoreline. We're talking about the shoreline equivalent of the coast of California. You don't just ride around. Print ads and magazines with pictures of homes for sale make sellers feel good. Look, they're marketing my home. But buyers are looking online first. They may accidentally visit and get one of these things, but that's not what sells it. But it's a habit. And also selling to the neighbors with coming soon or just listed cards. Odds are, if your neighbor owns a lake home, yeah, maybe they're upsizing or downsizing, but probably they're not going to be the buyer for your home. But those just listing, coming soon cards, unless it's a very special property, those things make you feel good as a seller, but don't move your home. Another thing of misunderstanding the marketing effort has to do with Zillow and the exposure. And there are lots of places where a home list on Zillow is great exposure, particularly in urban environments. But at a lake, it's very disjointed, and the consumer who's looking on Zillow is often wandering through and may not be as serious and as focused. The kind of person who goes, oh, I'd like a home. Ooh, maybe I could get a lake home. And so they tend not to be as highly qualified, but many sellers believe my home has to be on Zillow to be sold. Maybe the exposure doesn't hurt, and there are instances where it pays off, but it's not the be all end all because it's not highly qualified to the right purchaser of that type of property. I also mentioned if your agent, a mistake, you don't want to pressure them for Facebook ads. Facebook's a social thing. It's a cocktail party. It's the barbecue in your backyard. And if I ran around with a piece of paper and said, you want to buy this house? You buy this house? You buy this house to everybody at your barbecue, everybody be like, get this guy out of here. Well, a promoted ad on Facebook is everybody at your cocktail party. And suddenly somebody who's not looking for a house is going, look at this house. Look at this house. Now, there's strategies in Facebook that are more involved that can help sell property. But just doing listings and posting them out there, here's the deal. The consumer wants to search for what they want when they want to search for it, not when they're being interrupted. And speaking of the internet, last point about understanding the marketing effort has to do with views. Oh, look how many views this property got on social media, or how many views it got on Zillow. Well, that's a deceptive number, because if you have, let's think of it this way. If you have a property listed online and it has thousands of views, but no one came to buy it, did that help you sell your home? Nope. Or if it's only had a handful of views, okay, maybe it didn't get exposure. But keep in mind, often they go down a list of things, and if they see the house and the price and they don't click it, it's not a view. You didn't even survive the list. So the number of views could be indicative of price, but views are a deceptive thing. Here's the number of views you want for your house listed online. One view of the right buyer who can buy now and afford the property. One. Everything else is extra and motion. So the marketing that works to the right buyer at the right time, at the right price for your home's location, age, condition, what lake and location on lake. That's what you really want, that right buyer. So the rest of this is interesting, but it's shooting in the dark and hoping you hit something. In fact, this was part of the logic, to toot our own horn for a second, that we built lakehomes.com to connect with the right buyers and give them that choice. But many agents, they're great agents we work with at the lake, in addition to ours, that do a good job. And agents may have a great pipeline of eligible and interested and qualified lake home buyers. And they may have their own really good digital efforts. It's not just, we're not exclusive to doing this well, but we're focused on it. But I want to be very clear, when it's time to market your home, do not confuse motion with progress. All right, enough of that one. Let's do number 3. And some of you may be very alarmed about for sale by owner. And actually, I am not opposed to for sale by owner. I think if you can execute that and do well. However, at the lake, there's an extra challenge to for sale by owner, in that most of the potential buyers for lake property are not local. They're probably 200 or more miles away. And maybe you can get that home listed on Zillow. That could help. But that sign in the yard, particularly if you're in a quiet part of the lake, that sign's going to be seen by the neighbors. Maybe they tell somebody. But let's be honest, your neighbor's probably not buying your house, remember? So that becomes a marketing challenge for sale by owner, and doesn't mean all that the licensed agents with firms are going to get this grade either. In fact, many don't, but it's an extra challenge. There's also a pricing challenge that's for sale by owner has, that's not just in lake, but all real estate, that no one talks about. I'm going to share it with you. And that is, let's be honest, someone who lists for sale by owner believes, hey, I'm going to get to keep that commission. But let's be honest, the buyer believes the house should be discounted by that amount. And so the buyer and the seller are farther apart on price. And so while the real estate industry loves to brag about, oh, for sale by owners, once they list for an agent, their home sells for X number of dollars more. Part of that is simply through no action of the agent, but simply that once it's listed with an agent, the buyer and the seller psychologically don't have that separation on price about the commission, and it brings them closer together with somebody who can be conducive. Doesn't mean you can't overcome it, but you better know how to address that challenge if you want to do for sale by owner. And I want to be helpful for somebody who, if you're doing for sale by owner, a tip for you. And that is, there's a lot of paperwork that could really create lawsuits if not done well, not to scare anybody. And each lake can have its own unique regulations that you may know as a homeowner, but don't know how to convey that information to a buyer. And buyers after the fact feeling that they didn't understand something is where a lot of legal problems come from. So I would suggest if you do for sale by owner, that at some point you consult with some type of professional attorney, real estate, a licensed agent who can act as a transaction manager. Look at a way to protect yourself. Okay, let's talk about mistake number 4. And that has to do with a lack of a plan. I call it listing on a prayer. And think of it this way. You wouldn't bet on a football team that you knew had no coaches and no game plan, right? I mean, maybe they're really talented and maybe they win, but who's going to coordinate all that? And what happens during the course of the game when something changes? So the mistake is to not start with a specific plan, not just the start, but one about price and price changes if you don't get the action you want. This shouldn't be something that happens downstream. So for instance, and this time frame varies by market. If your home has been on the market for 2 weeks and no one's called to schedule a showing or ask really meaningful questions, the market has actually spoken to you. Today's buyers are more informed than any time on history, and they're watching for these properties. They get notifications of the things they're looking for, and they look at it. If they don't respond, they've spoken about your home they believe to be overpriced for the current local market and the current comparable listings at that market, period. That's it. That's people say, well, I test the market. Well, if you put it out there for a period of time and get no response, that was the test. Your price failed. Now, what you can do though is start with a plan that has the price adjustments already planned. I even encourage people to go ahead and sign those documents and get it ready, because if you don't have a plan, you're going to wing it. When do you make the change? Why? How much? Are you just going to guess because you had so much faith? It's like the football team. Well, we didn't score any points in the first half. I guess we'll try to dream up something at halftime, as opposed to a logical follow our plan and adjust. Let's look at what the opponent did, in which case it's the market. The other thing is that if you don't have a plan when you start about your price changes, you develop an adversarial relationship with your own agent, because you're saying, oh, they need to market the home better, and they're just trying to get the price down to sell it. The agent, I'll be honest with you, is going, the market spoke, the price doesn't pass muster. My job is to help guide them. So at this point, the longer it goes on, the more you want that price adjusted for sellable. Because if you just leave it up there at a high price and nobody responds, you're hoping that you win the lottery. I want you to have the best price for your home. That's the goal. But if it doesn't sell, the price is zero. In fact, I love the phrasing, and I didn't think of this. It said, if you put your house on the market and it doesn't sell, you were the high bidder on your own home. So have a plan about the pricing and how you respond, of when and how you're going to adjust it and by how much before you ever start. Now, you can adapt the plan, but the biggest mistake is just we'll put it out there and hope and figure it out as we go. That is not the way a professional should do it. All right. Mistake number 5, selecting a real estate agent for the wrong reasons. And this is a really common issue in all of real estate. And let's face it, you all know a lot of people with a real estate license, and most of them probably have some expectation that maybe you'll call them when it's time to sell that lake home, whether they are at that lake or maybe they're your friend. Maybe you've got a home in the city and then a lake home. Even your friends in the city with a license, man, they'd love that listing. It's a nice price point, and they're your friend, and they'll get it in the listing service. So here are some of the wrong reasons specific to lake real estate that you can make as a mistake. So one is to think, well, all the agents, they're all the same anyways. And yeah, that's a common complaint we hear. There's not a lot to distinguish. And let's be honest, you don't want to become highly educated in how to vet real estate agents. Not the most entertaining thing to do, I'm sure. But let's look at some numbers right quick. So last year, according to the National Association of Realtors, almost exactly 6 million existing and new homes were built across, not just lake, across the country. And according to another, the Association of Real Estate Licensed Law Officials, there are about 2 million licensed agents in the U.S. 6 million homes being sold by 2 million agents. most real estate agents cannot make a living selling 1 or 2 houses. This is a crazy number, which means most of them are not good at it, because even if they're nice people, they don't do the transaction enough. You know, you don't want to go to a surgeon who's only done 2 surgeries in the last 3 years. You want a professional who's done this. So in fact, we estimate that out of this almost 2 million licensed agents, less than 100,000 will even sell more than 12 homes this year. This is across all of things. 5% of the agents. So which one are you picking? Somebody who does this enough, or somebody that and has support and can move it forward, or somebody who it's a hobby? In fact, we find that 10% of the agents in the lake real estate market are involved in more than 50% of the deals. So all agents are not the same. To protect your investment, know why you are selecting an agent. Now, another mistake is, well, the agent's my family, my friend, my neighbor, maybe somebody from church, somebody I went to college with. Look again. If you need a financial investor advisor to protect your investment, is that the only criteria you would use? Well, they're real nice. Who's doing your heart surgery? Oh, my friend. Well, how's that working? Well, they're real nice. That's not enough. In fact, I see family get upset because they're not selected. And my contention is that they need, if they're family, they should work even harder to show why they're a great choice. Maybe it gets them the discussion, but it shouldn't just be automatic. And any family or friend who believes you should pick them only because you're buddies, I would question, are they going to be prepared to do a great job? They should be able to tell, you should give them the opportunity to go, here's why I can do a great job at this compared to somebody else. Another mistake, and this one's changed, is, oh, we picked this agent because they have an office here at this lake. Well, in real estate, the office used to be a big deal. Why? It's where the phone rang. It's where the keys were kept. And it's where all the information, eventually the MLS paper book was kept. That was all in one place and it was needed. Well, all those things are in our phone now. They travel with us. So I would contend that there's an overhead. In fact, I see some people say, well, they have a lot of offices in the area, or they have the biggest office here. Well, those offices cost money. Buyers don't really care about the office. They want a lake home. They don't drive down here to see an office. They drive down here to see the house. So office may be convenient, but I even contend that most buyers coming from out of town, if they don't already have a place to stay, will meet at a real estate office because the agent asked them to. But if the agent said, I'll meet you at the first house, they're delighted because their time is valuable. Now, this next reason could be a good or bad reason about the right or wrong real estate agent. And that is, I see their signs everywhere. That may actually be a really good reason to pick an agent, but you need to investigate it. So what you need to do is, if you see a lot of signs, and that's allowed in your community, find out, do those listings sit on the market for a long period of time? There are some agents, we discourage it with our agents, who get a lot of listings at a really high price and let them sit and sit and sit because it looks good to go, I have this long list of listings here in my market. That means I'm the best agent. What you want is an agent who sells homes, and either they go, I have a lot of homes, but they turn over quickly because we get them sold. Or they say, I don't have a lot of signs and homes right now. Mine have sold while others are sitting. So the signs are something you need to think further than just, I see a lot of their signs. That must mean they're good. It could also mean they're not very good at selling. They're just good at getting a listing. And the last item about this, about selecting the agent for the wrong reason. Not all real estate agents are focused about the nuances of a lake real estate. You know, if you had a friend who's a car dealer, but you need to sell your custom built Maserati, and they're a Ford or GM dealer, that's great if that's what you were trying to trade or sell. But the lakes all have their own nuances. In fact, from one lake to the next even has different rules and regulations that can get people in trouble. And the fact that, I know of markets where people who are not lake agents get that listing, they like it, it's a nice price point, they put in the MLS, but to be honest, now the secret here of real estate, they're hoping someone who knows what they're doing will bring the buyer, that can negotiate and explain the nuances of the lake property, about water depth, about shore rights. And these are different in every market. Okay, let's move on. I got 2 reasons left here. All right, so mistake number 6. This one's really common because it used to not matter. And that is forgetting about other competing lake markets. So you're ready to sell your house, and the agent comes and they bring you a CMA, a comparable market analysis. And typically that's going to be about properties at your lake. And they can actually be really hard at lakes because many lakes have a long span of different time periods and sizes, and they're very custom. So these are already very challenging. And let's be honest, there are some buyers who only want to come to your lake. And those buyers, they're going to wait for the right thing at that lake, and that's meaningful. But we've seen over and over again through buyers who come through lakehomes.com, buyers that they don't have an affiliation or affinity for a certain lake. They're looking at multiple similar lakes or looking at lakes that have similar price point, maybe in different states. We'll really see emails that'll come in. Hey, I'm looking for this many bedroom, this kind of water, this price range, and I'm looking in Tennessee and Kentucky and Texas. And that may be based on taxes, or it may be based on where their grandkids are. And they don't even know the names of the lakes. Well, you're competing with those people as well. But probably 4 years ago, I was at a trade show, and a developer at a big lake with big expensive properties in the South said, hey, Glenn, we just haven't seen the market come back from the real estate bust. When do you think the market's going to come back? Well, I'd looked at the data about the traffic and the pricing for those markets in our footprint. I was familiar with his lake. I said, the market has come back, but they're not going to drive down to your lake like they did in the real estate boom and look at your houses and give you feedback. Now they look online through lakehomes.com and a host of other good websites. They think your market is overpriced. They don't call. They don't come see you. They just go shop in another market. We have comparable markets to yours that are really active right now, and yours are just plainly overpriced. They don't compare well. You're not competitive. And that's a whole lake as a group. Did some houses sell? Absolutely. But as a whole, there was a group mindset. Well, I'm listing for what homes are selling. Well, those people got lucky. Now, that since they got real, the market adjusted, and that market is starting to thrive. But it took them longer because they were naive that they were competing with lakes in other states nearby. In fact, one thing that may help you if you're interested in digging on your own, I want to offer is that we actually give away the nation's largest comprehensive lake market report. In fact, we've just issued a new edition, and this thing keeps evolving every quarter, but you can download it for free, lakehomes.com/report. It's almost 200 pages. It breaks down by state, compares markets, most expensive, most affordable, what the mix of pricing of home is. If you're wanting to compare and you're thinking of selling, you want to have some understanding. It doesn't have every single lake. We've broken it down into the top so many listings, top so many markets, but it's a great starting point. And our agents are familiar with how their market compares to others. So if it's not in the report, one of our agents could help, but that's free, no obligation. You can download that. All right, let's move on to the last point here. This is a biggie, and overpricing. This is the biggest mistake. And I'm sure you're thinking, hey, Glenn, you just want to lower the price so it'll sell fast and Lake Homes will make some money if we list it with you. And actually, that's not it. Not it at all. I've studied this for years, even before we got into this business. And overpricing is the number one reason sellers lose more money when they're selling than any other reason. And you say, well, Glenn, how if I have a nice, juicy price, how can I lose money? All right. Let me explain a couple of scenarios here. Okay, this is the overpricing sliding trap. I'm come up with a fancy name for it at some point, but let's look at this for a second. So you've got the CMAs from an agent. You've decided I'm going to price it at this price point and go, test the market, or this is what I feel like it's worth no matter what the market said, or I bought it at the boom and this is what I've got in it, whatever it is. And you set a price that generally is seen as higher end for comparable markets. All right, fair enough. So you set that price. You put it on the market. It gets exposed. It's on Zillow. It's on the MLS. It's on lakehomes.com. It's on all these sites, and the consumers see it. And then it just sits until you drop the price. You drop it, 5% or something. Hey, 5% is a lot of money, right? Time passes. Months go by, weeks. You drop it again. You nudge it. Nothing happens. You drop it again, and maybe now we've changed selling seasons. We've gone from summer into fall or winter. You drop it again. Not much happens. Finally, get more aggressive. You drop it again. Okay, now look at this span here of time. Here's a couple things going on. Now it's been on the market a long time. Let's be honest. Think back when I said, think of yourself as the buyer. And maybe you're just new to the market. There's two types of buyers. Those that have just seen this house and they're going to go, oh, that's not a bad price, but ooh, it's been on the market for 10 months. Wonder what's wrong with it. Why hasn't anybody bought it? Seems like a good price. And they become wary. Or they've been watching this house drop. They knew the buyers are more informed and knowledgeable any time in human history. They know a price. They know the market price. Those folks have been watching you drop the price. They've been watching you drop, and they still believe if they've not come and asked, the market is speaking. But then finally you get that low ball offer. You don't like it. You want to have your feelings hurt. You want to get mad. You want to get angry. It doesn't matter. Why? And you're going, oh, I've already cut my price this many times, and now they lowball me? How dare they? Here's the deal. You know why they lowballed you? You train them, you'll cut your price. You've done it repeatedly, and they watched you do it. Or they've watched it in Zillow, even if they're new, and they've seen the price changes. These things are now recorded and tracked. Some MLSs report them. So this overprice becomes, over time, a barrier to it selling in a timely manner. And that becomes a big obstacle. So as we think about another scenario is, this very common in Lake Homes, is that many people bought their home during that 05 to 08 boom. That was peak pricing. And some of those prices have never recovered, even now with a bit of competition. That was an anomaly fueled by easy money, and we all went to big house to show off. Well, the house prices may never have come back in your market to that price. And while that's what you paid for it, that's not value. That was the value then. Think about it this way. Consider it as if it was a stock, and you bought it. That stock had been kind of bubbling along, and it took off, and it was hot, and you bought it while it was hot, and then it fell. And it's trickled back up to some extent. Would you go, well, I paid $500 a share, and since then, the most it's traded is $300. I will wait till it gets to $500 a share. Well, most people don't do that. They accept that that was a bubble, a bust, some recovery, and that the market is the market. That's it. The mistake is to not think of your home like that stock investment, but to think of it differently. It's unrealistic. So with that in mind, those are my 7 big things. So I want to give a wrap up here. Let's go through those 7 right quick. Okay, 1, a big mistake is forgetting what it feels like to be the buyer, and have empathy and do your marketing and pricing from the perspective of that buyer that you want. Misunderstanding the marketing. Remember, motion and activity doesn't mean progress. You can do a lot of things that never sell your house, and then you'll get discouraged. You know, some people say, well, this agent couldn't market my home. I'm going to fire them and get an agent who can. I don't know which agent you're going to get. If your home has been on the market, every agent that works in that MLS failed to sell your home. They failed to sell your home. So this isn't a marketing question. It's a price and exposure if it's put out in all the right places. So know about, are you marketing to the right people with the right plan, the right connection? For sale by owner, not opposed to it, but remember, you're trying to sell a secret. You're at a lake and the buyers are often hundreds of miles away. And when they get there, they know it's for sale by owner. They think they get to keep the commission instead of you. Be prepared for it. A lack of a plan with goals and deadlines. You want to do that with any good plan, with any good objective. So remember, have a plan. Your agent can develop and should develop a plan with you. Number 6, picking an agent for the wrong reason. I know there's social aspects to this, but all agents are not the same. Whether it's somebody with our firm, and there are lots of other great agents who are experts at selling lake real estate, and the right ones really do matter for this type of property. Your home is a specialized investment. You need a specialized expert. Forgetting that your home is competing with other lake markets. So you don't just need to be I consider that you should be the best value, not the lowest price, the best value in your market. But remember, your market could be several lakes in different parts of the country. And then number 7, overpricing. Yeah, let's keep those in mind. That's the number 1 reason people actually lose money on the sale of their house. Instead of selling it, what you really want to do is to be the best value compared to the competition at the time you put the home on the market. Sell it for the most. You want to increase the probability that it sells for the most money in an appropriate period of time. And pricing can be the biggest obstacle to that. In fact, I even consider it's hard to do and you can't do it in every market. You actually can't underprice a home if you have a good strategy, because if you give a window, and this has a lot of technical pieces, but in some markets, if you set it up right and you put a window to accept offers that's appropriately number of days, the market will compete and set the price. But the price is never set by the seller. It's set by what the seller accepts from the buyer. That's the price, not what we hope. Okay, with all that said, this is a lot, mistakes are a lot of negatives. Don't be discouraged. This is actually a really great time to sell. And I know, oh, agents are always saying that, but no, it really is. There is limited inventory of appropriately priced homes. So if yours is put on the market, that's something you want to do, it'll be seen and get interest. There's buyer demand, COVID-19 and all this economic issues for appropriately priced homes. Not all homes. Nobody wants to overpay when we know we're in the peak and maybe the economy is going to slow down. But if it's priced right, they'll be interested. So that makes this really another point of why it's a good time, is that we're roughly at sort of the peak. But I don't see in most markets, any consistent price increases beyond where we are now. In fact, if anything, there's a risk they would fall, but total unknown. The economy, it's odd, but it's holding right now in Lake real estate very well. Most of our agents are having a lot of extra activity and very interested buyers. Keep in mind though, I'm not telling you to keep or sell your property. The best time to sell your lake home is when you're ready. It's a great thing to enjoy. It's a great place to social distance. Just be smart about how and when you sell, and don't repeat the mistakes of others. So I want to thank you for taking time with us today. I do want to mention that the lake-related property listed by one of our Lake Homes Realty agents is actually the only way to have that property a featured property on lakehomes.com. No other agents can grab the feature, although we pull all lake-related property in the MLSs we're a member of. We're adding more of those. We're expecting at least 4 million U.S. adults who are interested in lake real estate to use lakehomes.com this year. And that's waterfront, but it's also lake access, lake view, lake communities. Anything that's lake related is part of what we're selling for that lake experience. Also, the Lake Homes Realty agents, those licensed with our brokerages across the country, they're trained to help sellers with the information I covered today. We think about this stuff very actively, and we work with our agents to be sure they can be helpful when the time's there. And they're also very patient and understanding that unlike primary residential real estate that can be kind of hyper-driven of speed, nobody has to buy or sell a lake home in most cases, and we understand that, and we're very patient to be helpful. In closing, remember, we'll be sending everyone an email within a couple of days, who registered. It'll have a link for recording of this webinar. You can also email us at webinars@lakehomes.com. And as always, visit us at lakehomes.com, where we have, if you're interested in buying or comparing the markets, we have almost 100,000 lake properties for sale of all sorts of types across the country. And I appreciate you taking so much. You took time with us. I hope you found at least one thing valuable, maybe even better. And if we have time for we have a moment here for some questions. And I'll check here. I've got my team here, and we'll see what we have for some questions. Okay, I have a lake house cabin on a lake with more part-year residents than year-round, where pricing is about 50% less than a larger lake, twice the size with more year-round residents, mile down the road. What's the best strategy for taking this into account when pricing my home or cabin? So let me kind of recap here. This one smaller lake has a lot of part-time residents. It's near a larger lake with higher price with more long-term. So what do you do about how you pay attention to those things? That's a great question. So one of the things is to be sure that you are working with somebody who can price this, get the exposure, because this is an exposure question, not just the right price, but in this case, they're the two different types of markets close to each other. And so while Zillow could be helpful and other types of large MLS manufacturing could be helpful, that exposure alone may not be enough, because that's not sorted out. There are specialty sites, not just ours, but there's some other specialty sites that can help put it in front of that buyer. But I would actually contend that getting somebody who understands more than one market, who understands that there are other markets just like this one, I would also be, if you've got a lot of part-time residents, I would pay close attention during the current economy. There's a new variable that's shown up that your agent should be able to discuss with you. And that is how many people bought their home to rent it on Airbnb and now are considering that they need to sell that property and put it on the market. There could be a bit of a flood of inventory. I would also say the last point, as I kind of get long-winded on the question, is the history of what has recently sold in the last year and a half will be your guide to what that pricing is. Those are the prices the consumers were willing, the buyers were willing to pay. What's listed and hasn't sold isn't your guide. That's people who may be speculatively selling as opposed to motivated. So if you look in the recently sold of comparables at your market and similar markets, that's the price, good or bad, and that's where you want to target. I'd also recommend that you put that as be the best value in your neighborhood, doesn't have to be the lowest price. And if you can research that, but target best value among those that you're competing with is the absolute way, because somebody, if it's priced appropriately, will move quickly, and if they don't, respond quickly. Another question, I'm looking for property in the Lake of the Ozarks, but off the lake with 20 more acres with a pole building for trailers and boats. Can you help with that type also? So our agents, and we have agents in that area, one of the great things is that we not only have our agents who are experts, and they may know in each market these types of properties, and if they don't, they know somebody who knows somebody. Our agents are seasoned agents that do this as their profession, and that type of agent is part about the connectivity. They understand I'm a special at this, and if you're looking for more acreage, some of our agents are really good at large plots of land. Others know someone, and they'll be glad to help you get the right agent. So absolutely, if you contact one of our agents or another expert agent, we'd love you to be one of ours. If they don't have the answer, they're not just going to ring you along hoping to get a deal out of you. They'll get you to the right person. I'm interested in buying land on Lake Michigan, but I'm very concerned about erosion. The price needs to reflect this risk, or I need to identify a location where this risk is low. I'm struggling to identify lower risk locations. Maybe they don't exist. Any thoughts? Well, I'll tell you one thought right off the bat, and it's not necessarily overly encouraging, I suppose, is that the COVID situation has shown that Mother Nature will throw us a curveball in a heartbeat, and that these lakes all have some erosion type activities. What I would find is the areas of Lake Michigan, which is, I've been up along the coast there, it's just a beautiful area of the country, that's a case of not just as you look at property and you have an agent who can guide you, but as you narrow down your look, you need to understand what are the opportunities to do anti-erosion activities. Is a seawall permitted? If so, what is permitted? If it's not permitted, understand that and use the property accordingly. I think you should, in anything where there's a history of erosion, you should plan that that's a fact of life of these properties. Don't fool yourself because you have this idealistic dream, and I'm not going to squash it, but part of the erosions is that this is an ever-changing part of nature, and it always has been. It's a bit, it's very interesting that man thinks that we can freeze the perfect time of things and that it won't change. So I would do the extra due diligence on property as well to be sure when you are interested in a property, to be sure you get vet your inspectors for those properties. Somebody who's not just knowledgeable of homes, but also about lake and erosion, and check their credentials during the buying process once you've gotten to that buying step of the process. I hope that's helpful. Okay, I don't know if we have any more questions or not for today. That's what I see right now to ask my team. I want to be considerate of your time. If you do have questions, email us at webinars@lakehomes.com. We'll get you a good answer, a right answer. I hope the tips today have been helpful. It's our goal when it is time for sale that you get the best return on your investment. And I appreciate your time so much today. So thank you very much and have a great day. Thank you.